Saturn V Quarterly Film Report number 8 covers progress during the period September, October, and November 1964. Throughout the quarter, Boeing and Marshall continued S-1C stage development, manufacturing, and testing. At Marshall, Boeing successfully completed full-pressure hydrostatic testing of the S-1C test fuel tank after resolving the test equipment problems encountered last quarter. This was followed by successful LOX tunnel testing. Early in the quarter, Marshall personnel, during a routine inspection, discovered weld microcracks on S-1CT and S-1CS assemblies previously manufactured. After detailed investigations and studies, Marshall resolved the problem by microshaving all weld beads. Necessary action is being taken to prevent recurrence of the problem. Despite the welding problem, S-1C stage manufacturing and assembly continued at a satisfactory pace. Mating of the S-1CT forward skirt, LOX tank, and inter-tank section was completed. On November 2nd, this major assembly was moved from the vertical assembly building to the horizontal assembly area, where final S-1CT assembly will take place. S-1CT thrust structure manufacture was completed with installation of heat shield panels and LOX and fuel duct supports. The structure was then moved into the vertical assembly building and joined to the S-1CT fuel tank. The unit will be transferred to the horizontal assembly area for final mating to the LOX tank assembly early next quarter. S-1CS cylindrical skin assembly and bulkhead fabrication continued this quarter. The forward LOX bulkhead for this ground test stage is now being built at Marshall. The original bulkhead fabricated by Boeing was rejected at Michoud because of unacceptable welding. Boeing is attempting to improve its welding techniques to prevent this problem from recurring. The first inter-tank for the S-1CS test program, built by Boeing Michoud, has been placed in Marshall's new load test tower, and preparations are underway for structural testing. Bulkhead fabrication for the first two flight stages, S-1C1 and S-1C2, is progressing steadily. Construction of Marshall's S-1C static test stand is virtually complete, with hold-down arms installed this quarter. At Marshall's Michoud operations, Boeing continued work on the S-1CD dynamic test stage thrust structure, base heat shield support for the thrust structure, and inter-tank. Assembly of the stage bulkheads also continued. Other S-1C component work by Boeing included assembly of the forward skirt for the first flight stage and chemical cleaning of the Y-rings for the second flight stage. Major facilities construction at Michoud included work on the stage test facility, the high-pressure test facility, and the vertical assembly building with its hydrostatic test tower and final assembly tower. At the S-2 static test facility at Santa Susana, North American Aviation Space and Information Systems Division directed major activity during September and October toward preparations for the initial firing of a single engine of the battleship test stage. This activity included the installation of the center J-2 engine on the battleship and installation and checkout of ground support equipment and systems development device at the test stand and in the control center. Systems checkout and cryogenics testing were completed. Continuity checks were made and the integrated checkout or sequential countdown conducted. Culminating these months of intensive preparation, on November 9th, the S-2 battleship first ignition was successfully accomplished. In the vertical assembly building of S&ID's Seal Beach facility, manufacturing of S-2S structural test stage continued during the report period. The common bulkhead, completed last quarter, was mated to the liquid hydrogen tank cylinder, and the assembly was installed in the hydrostatic test station, where hydrostatic testing was successfully accomplished. In late October, the aft LOX bulkhead for S-2S failed during its in-process component hydrostatic testing prior to being welded to the LOX tank. The character of the failure was a fracture which propagated through the apex sections of 8 of the 12 gore segments of the bulkhead. An extensive investigation by Marshall and SNID revealed that the failure was caused primarily by manufacturing defects and inadequate detail inspection. Corrective action has been initiated and a replacement bulkhead for S2S will be available in December. Assembly of the first S2 stage transporter was completed at the American Machine and Foundry Corporation at York, Pennsylvania. Acceptance testing was completed satisfactorily and the vehicle shipped to S&ID's Seal Beach facility where functional testing and mobility runs were performed. The transporter will be used to move early ground test stages. At Douglas Aircraft Company's Sacramento test area, preparations for the first S-4B battleship hot firing were underway during September. Fuel leak checks and pneumatic lines checks were performed. Technicians checked engine bleed gas igniters and the water and propellant distribution complex. An engine diffuser water test was also run. J2 engine thrust chamber chill-down tests were successfully conducted in early October. On November 7th, the first hot firing was cut off prior to main stage by a gas generator over-temperature command. A second firing on November 24th was a successful 1-second duration test. 10 and 50-second firings are scheduled in December. At SACTO's Gamma complex, the attitude control engines for the S-4B auxiliary propulsion system were installed in September. A series of single and multiple engine first phase development firings was successfully conducted during October. Also at SACTO, DAC continued preparing beta test stand number 3 for installing the facility's checkout stage for propellant loading tests in early March. At Douglas's Huntington Beach facility, assembly and checkout of the S-4B dynamic test stage has been completed, and the stage is being prepared for shipment to the Marshall Center in early December. The original all-systems stage, which has been redesignated the facility's checkout stage, underwent cleaning and insulation this quarter. The stage will be used for propellant loading tests at SACTO and facilities checkout at Kennedy Space Center. Components from the original facilities checkout stage have been reallocated for use on an S-4B sectional mock-up, which will be shipped to Marshall for use on an overall Saturn V simulator. Fabrication and assembly of components for the first Saturn V S-4B flight stage, 501, got underway at Douglas Santa Monica this quarter. At the Air Research Test Facility in Phoenix, Arizona, pressure testing to failure of S-4B propellant loading flex hoses was conducted this quarter for Douglas. At the Edwards rocket engine test site in California, Rocketdyne began flight rating tests of the F-1 engine on November 16th. The tests are progressing satisfactorily and will be completed by December 31st. Operational readiness of the 2 new F-1 production engine test stands at Edwards was marked by ceremonies held on October 9th. The event was climaxed by a full duration firing. As part of the continuing effort to improve F-1 engine reliability, Rocketdyne has designed and tested a new tight-fit LOX impeller spline coupling. Test results indicate the new design, with reduction of turbopump RPM, will eliminate LOX pump explosions.